Oh my God. That's my phone. I don't know why, but it's going to go off on
And at
something.
the ringing of the bell,
Yes.
we'd
All
like
right.
to welcome you to Cambridge Inside Out.
This is very embarrassing.
You can
I
sort
was
of deal
going
with
to
it.
get up and just
We're
deal with this.
inauspicious beginnings. This is September 13th, 2016.
Somehow it was on alarm. I don't know.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
a little mishap right there, but we'll live with it. So anyway, a lot to talk about. I think maybe just say a few things in the way of announcements first. Actually, one thing just I think probably should be said straight away is there are two kind of fun events that are happening this week.
Two.
Right. The first one is
Oh,
on
Parking
Friday.
Day.
Yeah,
I like that
Parking Day, which is basically where the city sets aside a whole bunch of parking spaces, on-street parking spaces, and people do creative things.
Yeah, it makes drivers angry.
Well, actually, I don't think so,
This
because
is a good
they're
reason.
parking spaces.
Yeah.
One is actually CCTV right in front of the studios here. Always do a pretty spectacular job.
Do with the election. Did you see that with the cutouts?
Yeah, I remember
That's
that.
what they're going to do.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So that'll be kind of fun. I always like to do a little walk around for these things, but there are actually sites in a lot of places all around the city.
Is there a map? Is there a way to find it?
Yeah, I don't have the URL here, but if you just Google the city website or check the city
It'll be on the
website,
city
you'll find
website,
it. There'll be
yeah.
an announcement of it. So it's
Parking
Parking
Day.
Day, and I think it runs like from 9 a.m. to 5 or something, 9 to
Maybe,
4,
yeah,
9 to
some-
6, something.
During the day.
Yeah, all day long, and there are people all over the place
Yeah.
doing interesting things. Most of the city departments out of the community
Recycling
development
division,
department
Public
and public
Works,
works
yeah.
will have
I've done it in the
tables.
past. I'm fortunately not going to be around.
Yeah, I always have fun at them.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people have little gimmies, so if you like little trinkets and things, so a lot of that stuff as well. But some of it's just a lot of fun.
Yep.
Patrick Barrett, one time he set up, actually several times, he sets up a
over by,
miniature golf
Yeah.
set-up over here in Lafayette Square. It's a fun
cool.
day.
Miniature
And then,
golf.
so that's on Friday. And on Saturday,
Yeah. It's the
September
annual.
17th is the
What,
annual.
21st. Look at that.
Yeah, I can't believe it's 21st, but it's the
Yeah.
Danahy Park Family Fun Day, or
Yeah.
Family Day. And for the kids especially, there are rides and fun.
What are those bouncy things? Those bouncy houses?
Yeah, they got stuff like that. The fire department usually has the fire apparatus, and the kids
Right.
love it.
And there's music.
And there's music and just fun, and it's just a good time, and I hope the
And
weather's
free
great.
food.
And free food,
You know,
yeah.
we've talked
Yeah,
about
we
free food
mentioned that
before.
here. It's
I mean, you know,
it's one of the
hot
events
dogs,
where this top brass of the city staff and the
Serve
school
the
department
community.
will be serving up hot dogs
Yeah.
and hamburgers for people.
And potato chips and sodas. So
Yeah.
not the healthiest, but it's good.
Yeah,
it's
so
fun.
that's a great thing.
Yeah.
So
It's on Saturday.
Saturday, September 17th. There's lots of other good things happening as well, but a few other things.
yeah.
You were at a conference of some sort, or
Well, it was
what
the Neiman School of Journalism. Is that what it's called?
Neiman
the
Foundation for Journalism?
has a school, at JFK, and
Yeah.
they had this past weekend. And I'm sorry I didn't mention it last week. This is what was the title, Power, Accountability, and Abuse, and it was mostly on Sunday. 4 different sections of Pulitzer Prize winners.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like Stan Grosfeld, who's won for the photography, and he presented. You get free tickets, but you had to like line up on Wednesday, and I got one for 4:30, 6:30. But Laura Poitras, who did the Citizen Four, but
So while others are lining up for their new iPhone,
Yeah.
Judy is lining up for.
Well, I didn't line up. I went in at 2:00, and it was 2 sections left. But and Wynton Marsalis had played the night before, because I guess so there was all these Pulitzer Prize winners of, which I guess is awarded in cartooning, in photojournalism, in articles, and Sasha Pfeiffer spoke. So again, it's the richness of this community that you have this right in our backyard. You know, and it was free.
Yeah, I always feel kind of privileged to live right between Harvard and
MIT.
Yeah, I can just go up the street or down the street.
Exactly. So
Best place in the world.
sorry I didn't mention it, but you know what? Just look out and you'll find these things out.
Right.
Right.
Now,
So
another
that's-
interesting thing
Oh, yeah.
is a friend of Cambridge Inside Out.
Yes.
And there was a kind of an important life event in the
Yes.
life of former co-host Susanna Segat.
Yes. Her daughter Rebecca was married on Martha's Vineyard to Nico Bowie,
Right.
who both are CRLS graduates, and my daughter was a guest of them. They're all from the same year, and who officiated
Pretty interesting.
Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, yeah.
Right. Now, this is because of the groom's father being associated with the
You know
law
what?
school.
I never,
right?
oh no, the groom's mother.
Excuse me, I said
No,
the
actually,
the
I don't
groom's
know
mother.
if that, well, I mean, Lonnie Guinier, right, but
Right.
I actually think, and I could be wrong, so I don't know who's watching this, but I think he clerked for her this past year, because
Oh, really?
he was in DC.
Ah.
So I think that also
Okay.
cemented that. Although when I tried Googling stuff, I think she does officiate.
Right.
She's probably asked
Not
you,
bad, you know.
But, and because I'm not sure she has a house on the vineyard, but.
You know, I have some documents
Yeah.
I need notarized. Do you think we can get her to notarize Sonia
But
Sotomayor?
anyway, so she took a selfie with a bunch of the CRLS kids that were there, and so it's
That's
just
pretty cool.
fun. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty cool. Cool people, cool couple.
and
Congratulations,
big congratulations to
Susanna,
Susanna.
and the parents of Nico. Yeah, Cambridge breeds great kids.
Absolutely. And some of
Yeah.
us just arrived here.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I
That's
did
okay.
not get born
Right.
here, but
Now, another big event that happened this past Thursday.
Oh, my goodness,
There was
that's right.
the
primary.
state primary. Now, I mean, things are happening around the state, as various newspaper articles have noted. These tend to be low voter turnout events and whatever, but there were a few kind of hotly contested races in Cambridge.
Especially.
There
It made the local news.
Made
and
the local
newspapers,
news.
So yeah.
Certainly, one of them was for the state senate race. This was sort of a big battle between incumbent state senator Pat Jalen and city councilor Leland Chung as a
Right.
challenger. And in the end, I mean, it was kind of hard to predict, but in the end, it was
Yeah.
a overwhelming victory for Pat Jalen.
Right. Right.
Something I think pretty uniformly throughout the entire district, including Cambridge.
Yeah.
Probably about a 3-to-1 ratio.
Was it like 78?
About
to
70
20 or
some
something?
odd to
Yeah.
20 something. So
Yeah.
it was not a close race at all.
Oh, yeah,
One
you're
of
right.
one of the things worth noting about this race, because I was reading in Commonwealth, one of the email blasts you get from the people associated with Commonwealth magazine, it was a lot of talk leading up to this election about all this money. Some people called it dark money, but it's from these supposedly
PAC.
independent
Yeah.
organizations that independent of the the candidates' campaign,
Right.
back candidates. So there was a lot of talk about all the money that was coming in from one group who was a pro-charter school group,
Democrats for Educational Reform.
something
I think
like
that
that,
was the group.
yeah, in support of Leland Chung's campaign. And led to a sort of rather interesting moment where Pat Jalen challenged that organization to debate because he said, "That's my real challenge."
Right. That's what.
Right. So that's
Yeah.
pretty funny, actually.
Yeah.
But as it turns out, the other organization on the other side, which was some Teachers Association, Mass Teachers Association, it turned out it was 98.
We'll save our schools too, but
Yeah.
I don't know if they're the.
According to the updated version from the Commonwealth magazine, it was $98,000 got poured in to support Chung's candidacy,
Wow.
and $77,230 to support Pat Jalen's candidacy.
So.
So
it was
the
almost-
notion that one side had
Has more- yeah.
an entity was dumping money to swing the
It's
election.
almost equal. Yeah.
Yeah, the truth is that the real problem isn't that it was lopsided. It was that both candidates were being heavily, their campaigns
Yeah.
were getting a lot of attention, a lot of support from outside money. I don't know if that's such a great thing.
Right. Well, it's an issue though that is it goes beyond their districts.
It's kind of
It's the charters. It's sort of a
Yeah,
well, it's
yeah.
a state issue, but it's also I think a national issue. It's happening everywhere.
Well, this is sort of like either directly or indirectly an outflow of the whole Citizens United issue, which is
Oh,
hopefully.
you're talking about just the funding of these things.
Well, just
yeah,
the notion you
right.
have this kind of unfettered ability for money to come from various places
Yeah.
to support these. There was
And then the other.
well, there's one little one was Marjorie Decker winning over a challenger, but that was by the usual 85 to 15% margin. But there was another challenger in that.
Jay Livingston I think, had a challenger,
But
and I voted.
I don't think it actually amounted to
No,
much
it
of
didn't.
anything. The other big news was actually incumbent State Senator Tim Toomey
Yeah.
was actually defeated in the primary by challenger Mike Connolly. This is for the Middlesex 26th district. Relatively close margin. It was, at least in Cambridge, it was about 53 to 47%.
That's close.
Yeah, it was a pretty close election, a relatively low turnout, though it was not unusually low compared to
4,000?
state primaries.
Wait, well, I'm just Cambridge, how many?
The
'Cause I
total
think
in
I have a-
Cambridge was about 3,800 people voting.
No, that's right. Okay.
And the totals throughout the entire district was about 5,500.
So a lot of that is Cambridge, then?
Yeah.
That area, because it's a smaller district, because he's a rep, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So I don't know whether it should have been expected or unexpected. I was sort of trying to get a feel for it by asking people around and being kind of a mathy, geeky kind of guy.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned to you last night one of the things I had done.
I like that. Yeah, you have to mention
I'll
it, 'cause I
mention
think
it,
that's
yeah.
important, yeah.
So I was kind of curious as to how one would even bother to predict what the possible outcome of that race was going to be. And so what I said, I'm just speculating now. What I thought I would do is I would look at the March 1st presidential primary
Right.
results in all the precincts that comprise that district. And I was going to use sort of as a surrogate for this race was how Bernie Sanders did compared to Hillary Clinton.
Right,
The idea here being, just so you don't think I'm totally insane,
yeah.
that Sanders is sort of viewed as the sort of the our revolution.
Not a
well,
liberal, but the progressive.
let's not use the word
No?
progressive because they're both progressive, and
Well, but liberal now is used.
I know, but I wouldn't want to say that
Okay.
Hillary Clinton is not progressive.
No, I wouldn't either, but I'm
Right,
just saying
but-
that word kept
Well,
being
it's
thrown around.
maybe the better words would be sort of kind of left-leaning moderate versus left-leaning radical, right?
All right,
All right,
socialist. No.
social. Well, yeah. So,
All right, go ahead.
but I think the problem is that
Yeah.
so many of the younger voters don't
Sure.
really understand what that means because
Yeah.
they haven't lived through Cold Wars and
Yeah,
you
A
know
lot of
and the
other
fall of the Iron Curtain, all of those things. So
so you
people
looked
don't
at
quite
those
understand.
numbers.
So I looked at the numbers there as kind of a surrogate, and I noted that in fact the percentage breakdown in that district for Sanders, even though Hillary Clinton won Massachusetts,
And she won Cambridge
And she
even
won
more by the
Cambridge.
margin in Massachusetts,
Right.
right?
but in this particular district,
Yeah.
the margin that Sanders, actually in this district, which is part of Cambridge, part of Somerville, Sanders actually did better than Hillary Clinton
Yeah.
by about a 54% to 47%.
That's pretty different.
And I looked at that and I said, well, if you were to just
Yeah.
based on a little bit of knowledge of these candidates and who's supporting them,
Right,
you looked at it and you say, well, Connolly is very much more of the Bernie Sanders ilk.
right.
And he makes no bones
Occupy,
about it.
Right, Occupy.
And Tim Toomey is been around for a long time, probably viewed as more moderate, whatever.
Right.
I said, okay, probably would have, the person who voted for Hillary Clinton might vote that way.
Exactly.
So I said, So like a week before the election, I was thinking, this could sort of go like
Yeah.
the way Sanders Clinton went, and
Yeah.
and it did almost exactly.
Yeah, well, a little
So-
less, a little closer. I mean, you said it was 53.
Yeah, it's almost identical though.
Yeah,
And I mean,
That's
of course, a
amazing.
lot of it also had to do with who had the bodies out there
Sure.
to
but
distributing
it was
flyers
basically
and
the
knocking doors.
same
And all.
demographic almost.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah. And it does sort of make me speculate a little bit as
Yeah.
to where sort of the political landscape is shifting for not just right now, but for next year and the year
In
before.
terms of our local elections.
Yeah, both for, and
Yeah.
also affecting potentially municipal elections.
Well, that's what I meant, yeah.
I mean,
It's true.
just speculating wildly a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
Will we see next year a new flock of candidates who are all super energized, while other long-term candidates sort of exit stage right? Will there be some very major shifts in that? It's a possibility. I imagine if it's too much of a shift, we'll then go through a period of 5 or 10 years of total political chaos. But
No, I don't,
it wouldn't be the first time.
yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time.
Hopefully there's more women, because
Hopefully.
we'll have a woman president by then.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think this is, usually you don't start hearing about potential candidates for
Till January.
next year. Well, it's starting to be creeping into like after the November election.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah,
if anybody's sort of politically oriented out there or knows somebody who might be a great candidate, you might want to chat, have a little chat now.
yeah,
We could use a good, broad, diverse range of candidates
Yes.
from which to choose, and not just the super energized, but just people who might have thought about public service as an option and
yeah.
think about it. That's all I
There
can
were,
say.
what,
Think about
25
it.
candidates last time?
It was
26.
like, it's been sort of in the 22, 24
Yeah.
range in the municipal elections. But, the one difficulty is people who are more moderate tend to, well, almost by definition, tend to be
Yeah.
a little bit less energized. And
You
the
think?
energized, I think so.
Well, they're also, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so anyway, so we'll see how it plays
Yeah,
out. But,
yeah.
but you know, I'm always looking for patterns because it's my
That was
job.
a very
really.
interesting pattern.
Yeah, and I sort of saw that. So
And even Tim Toomey mentioned that in his concession thing. He said that it's changed. His constituents have changed.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely true. Absolutely true. So anyway, so that was sort of on the political front. We should also mention, so last night was the return of the Cambridge City Council from
Oh, right. I
the
was going to
summer
say, what? I
vacation.
just said on TV. What? Oh, that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually, let me just jump ahead a little bit here and
Yeah.
just say this, that when I first walked in the room at Sullivan Chamber last night to go to the city council meeting, and I first heard some of the interaction, not so much during public comment, but when the manager's agenda came up,
Yeah.
from the very first item, now maybe I'm crazy, but I sort of detected a little tension in the room.
Well, of course there was. Wouldn't there be tension because you had two sitting councilors that lost?
I
their
think one
bids
factor
for
is
primary?
that Tim Toomey and Leland Chung are on the city council, and both
Right.
had lost elections 4 days earlier.
Right, and three of those councilors supported the opponent in one of them. But
That's right. Okay,
And that's a
so
little
that's one
tension.
course of tension. But
what else?
the other thing, it's actually a rather important thing
Yeah.
too, was that, and actually I'll just say a few things on this. The city manager decision is coming up.
Right.
I don't know that they're going to reach the date, the deadline that they set of
26th.
September 26th.
Yeah.
That's 13 days from now.
Yeah.
But the committee, the screening committee that was charged with coming up with a short list of 3 candidates, from which basically parade before the public, and then have the city council see if they can come up with 5 votes for somebody. That process, they had one meeting in August, and then they had a meeting yesterday, all
When?
day,
Oh, before the meeting.
and the third one was today.
Oh, they really.
So if they're on schedule,
Yeah.
then in fact the 19-person committee will have come up with the 3.
And then what happens? What's the process?
Now they may schedule another meeting, I'm not sure.
It's 3 they have to come
They've
up
been
with?
very unclear about what happens next, other than the fact that the September 26th deadline is out there. So I'm speculating. I'm doing a lot of speculating
Yes,
today,
you
am
are.
I not?
Just remember, speculation. This is not
That's
fact.
right. That another bit of the tension in the air was that of this 19-person screening committee, 4 of them
Oh, right. Are
are
in
on
the
the
know.
city council.
And they're sworn to secrecy.
And I imagine there was some interesting back and forth happening. Again, pure speculation on Monday, and I'll bet you there was a lot more today.
So you mean back and forth between those 4 that were on that committee?
The 4 plus the other 15 who are on the committee, who were
Right.
sort of screening to come up
Okay.
with.
But those
19.
4 that are then on the city councilors, when they come with the other city council, they can't say anything, right?
You know, in principle, they're supposed to be sworn to secrecy, so
Yeah.
they're not even supposed to talk to the other
Right.
councilors,
It's-
because that would be a violation of the
Right.
open meeting law.
Okay.
Now,
Is it like Tom
you think
Brady
that's really-
not talking to the other football
yeah,
players?
it's like I'm sure there's some talking about it here, but
There's
that's
that tension.
there's that tension I think was
Sure.
in the air as well. So I was sort of trying to figure it out because the agenda had some interesting things. I don't
Yeah.
think it was super controversial. Most
Couple
of it.
things were.
A couple things were, but there was this added little
Interesting.
juice in
Yeah.
the room here.
Well, yeah, I myself would say it's more because of this sort of, how do you deal with people that were kind of jilted at the wedding? I mean, whatever. I mean, there was
Yeah.
a lot of things going on.
I think
Yeah.
that's definitely a
Yeah.
part of it. So,
So that'll be interesting to see. So, all right, what's the process? They pick 3 people?
So
Is
they'll
that-
pick, well, in principle, I mean, the truth is that
Yeah.
the city council has total control over this. So,
Right, that's
and
the
the
one
gov-
thing
and-
they can pick is
right,
city
and
manager.
the government, no, it's not the one.
Not one, you wrote
actually,
it down.
yeah.
I know, there's 4 things.
There's
right?
3, arguably 4, right?
All right,
But
we have that somewhere.
ultimately, the city council could deviate from the plan.
Yeah,
They're not obliged. In fact, they could come up with 3 names, and I've said this before,
Yeah.
and I'm sure some people get irritated when I say it, but they can come up with a big, wonderful process, come back with 3 finalists, and then have none of them be able to come up with 5 votes,
yeah,
and then have somebody just make a motion to
okay,
nominate so and so for the next city manager, take a vote, and boom, it's done.
Okay.
It's still ultimately 5 votes, period.
Is that done in an executive session? Or is
No,
it-
that's done in open session
But not a regular council meeting?
in a regular council meeting.
Oh, so it could be next week?
No.
Oh, no,
I mean,
but I mean, it could be the 26th.
In principle, they could, it could appear that if the 3 candidates have been chosen, and I have no inside information about
Right,
this.
right, we know.
And honestly, if somebody tried to give me it, I'd say, please don't tell me.
Don't tell me, right.
Right? But the thing is that they could, for example, schedule a block of time next Monday to have the 3 candidates appear. I don't think they're going to, but that's not out of the question.
So that's what would happen, they would have 3 candidates actually come to the city council?
I think they want to schedule at least some forum where the public could actually kind of hear them
Well, then I
strut
would
their
think
stuff.
they would have a public meeting rather.
It would have to be a public hearing. Yeah, but it wouldn't necessarily have to be part of the city council. It could be a
That's what I'm
special.
saying. That's what I
Yeah,
think
it could
would
be a
make
specially
sense.
arranged meeting of the
Okay.
Government Operations Committee, for example.
Okay.
So again, I checked the calendar like an hour ago. There
You
was
haven't seen
no such listing. They could turn September 26th into a kind of a dog and pony show for the 3 candidates, and then
Yeah.
have the vote a week later. I mean, there's nothing says they have to vote that day. People do laying bets over under. Do you think they're going to do it
Yeah.
by the 26th? I'm starting to think
Seems
no.
to me it should be a special meeting and not taken during a regular city council
Well,
meeting.
considering the
I
fact
don't
that the vote for hiring a city manager since 1941 has always been part of a regular meeting. In fact,
Oh, all right.
sometimes brought up at the last minute or
Oh.
unexpectedly.
Yeah, but how many times have they exercised that? Because Rossi was, they
There's never been a public
didn't
process.
go through
for-
that process because he
They
was,
started it, but there were some very good reasons why it was doomed.
and then they gave him a 3-year term.
And then they chose the best, as Bob
Right.
Healy said, the best athlete in the draft.
So the last time this happened then was when Healy was hired.
No, there has
Oh.
never been a process.
Oh
Bob
my
Healy was a
gosh.
deputy for
Oh, you're
his
kidding, so
predecessor.
this is a first.
Yeah, this is the first time
I
we're
think
doing
they
this
should
process.
take their time.
I think some people feel that way, but on the other
I
hand,
didn't realize that.
you do need to have a manager in place.
Oh, I understand that.
And Richie
But
does
Lisa's
has-
around, she's,
Yeah, no, there are plenty of
Yes.
people who can step in. It's true.
so they're the other people you've mentioned that they get to appoint.
Yeah, so the thing is that for those who are familiar with the planning charter,
Yeah.
the city council technically gets to hire exactly 3 people.
Okay,
The city manager is the appointing authority for everybody else on every board, every commission.
Uh-huh.
And in fact, for most of those appointments, except for 3 particular boards, I think it's Housing Commission, Housing Authority, Cambridge Redevelopment Authority.
everything, even
I
the
think it's just
yeah.
those 2. There may be one other.
Yeah.
Those ones are the only ones that require city council approval.
Oh,
But for everyone else, the manager just makes the appointment and it's done.
and they doesn't have to clear the, okay.
Right, but the city council does get to make 3 hires. Well, except for the unofficial hiring of their aides and all.
Right, city manager.
They hire the city manager. I guess arguably by tradition, I forgot to mention this,
What?
the deputy city
Well,
manager,
you've had by
But-
recent tradition, the deputy
by-
city, oh, I'm
the
sorry.
deputy city clerk as well.
Oh, the
Right.
deputy city manager.
Historically, and the charter specifically says
Yeah.
3. You hire the city manager, you hire the city clerk,
Okay,
and the city auditor.
okay,
By tradition, I mentioned on Civic Journal the other day
Yeah.
that they've been hiring the deputy city clerk. But I forgot to mention
The
deputy city
city
manager.
manager.
But historically, the manager would just choose a deputy.
Is that how Lisa got hired?
I don't remember, actually.
Okay.
I
So in
kinda
other
came on
words,
as a
they
team.
can usually do that themselves. The
I
city
think they do
council
it
doesn't,
themselves,
unless they,
yeah,
I guess, have a big
exactly.
objection or something.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Exactly. So anyway, the interesting thing is, in addition to this ongoing, soon-to-happen manager appointment, which is really a huge thing.
Yes.
The
It
the
is.
other 2 offices were reappointed last night.
Which was the city clerk.
The city clerk,
And
who's
the
Donna
city-
Lopez,
yeah.
who was reappointed for another 3-year term. These are 3-year terms.
Right.
And Jim McGonigal, pardon me.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of W.C. Fields and the Great
Yeah,
McGonigal.
yeah.
Jim McGonigal as city auditor was also
see.
given another 3-year extension as city auditor.
So they were already in place.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can they continue to do, can he do that, or that whoever is this,
They can-
continually reappoint?
Yes, oh yeah.
There's no term
No
limits?
term limits at all.
Okay.
That's right, yeah. And everybody basically serves at the pleasure of the city. Actually, no, excuse me. The manager serves at the pleasure of the council. I'm not so
Right.
sure about the others. They may, once they're hired, they're in, but I'd have to double check on that.
Yeah.
So that was sort of some of the kind
Interesting.
of big
Yeah.
stuff, I think, from a charter point
Right.
of view.
Right.
There were quite a few other things. I think maybe we should talk about some of the big ones during the.
What was it that they spent about over 35 minutes on the first agenda item, city
Yeah,
manager?
maybe we
What
should
was that?
sort of start on that a
Yeah.
little bit here, but it's actually a kind of a big story,
Yeah.
potentially. I can't say that I fully understood
I don't
all of the
remember
dynamics.
what it was now, I just remember.
Well, what happened was, Alexandria gifted the city the
The
Foundry
that's
building.
what it was, yeah.
And then the city council approved a plan to give authority to the Cambridge Redevelopment Authority, so to manage this process whenever. So that's been happening, and they were looking for basically somebody to be sort of the managing agent for the facility. They only got one bid, one qualified bid. And as was explained at the meeting, it's largely because
It was
making it work financially and otherwise
was
is
very precarious.
so just
yeah, it
nobody's
just didn't-
really interested in sticking
Yeah.
their neck out. So there was one combination from the Cambridge Innovation Center coupled with Graffito, which is
Yeah.
Jesse Bear Khan's company. And so they were the sole bidder. Some people may not like that, but that's how it was. They
Yeah.
they put I think a pretty good bid, but there was some really strong objections by some of the city councilors.
Even though this was presented, I listened to, it was a video, I listened to it at home, a meeting this summer,
It
Where
was
it was presented.
Yeah.
and people had input, but I guess it was more a presentation versus a back and forth. And
Yeah.
I think that's what
So
was sort
I
of
think
objected to a
Maybe
little bit.
six or more city councilors chimed in on it, but the principal one who
Yeah.
led off was Councilor Mazin, who basically said outright, says, what can we do to block this? Straight out.
Or this, you haven't listened
Right.
to anything we wanted.
And the city
Yeah.
manager was basically saying, he was defending the process. So.
Yeah,
Anyway, it was pretty heated.
Yeah.
And we could say more in the second half hour, but we're down to our last few seconds
right,
here.
yeah,
So,
time
so we're
flies.
just going to whiz out of here for a second, and then we'll be back in another 3 minutes with Cambridge Inside.
Out.